Today I have a stunning piece of world cinema that has just been released on Blu-ray from 88 Films. It's the box set Long Arm of the Law Parts 1 and 2. This is a set of Hong Kong crime films from the 1980s that's being released in both Region B and Region A. So if you're in the US or the UK, you can get your hands on this. Now, before I start digging into my thoughts on this release, let me just talk a bit about the label 88 Films. Over the years, they've released some fantastic stuff, a mix of slashers, some Italian genre films, Asian genre films, lots of martial arts films. It really all is great stuff, particularly if you're into cult cinema. Now, unfortunately, I only have a limited budget to spend on Blu-rays per month, and that has dwindled over the past couple of years, like I imagine it has for everyone. So I have to be select with what I buy from certain labels like 88 Films. In an ideal world, I'd love to get every single thing they release, and I'd love to review it on the channel. But unfortunately, I'm just not able to do that right now. But if you're able to, please do go and support them. Go and check out their website and see all of the great things that they've released. But for now, let's talk about this one, because this is a fantastic release with a genuine discovery for me. So what is Long Arm of the Law? Well, let me tell you, this is not your typical 1980s Hong Kong action flick. I went into this thinking that I was going to get some kind of John Woo, Johnny To, A Better Tomorrow style film, when in fact the first film, which predates A Better Tomorrow, is much more of a gritty, harsh, political film that looks at crime within China and Hong Kong. The film has so much to say and is incredibly directed. I genuinely was so surprised because I'd never seen these two films before, and the first film in particular just blew me away. The story follows this group of criminals who are plotting to rob a jewellery store in Hong Kong. Now, they come from mainland China, and they come from simple backgrounds, not wealthy at all. And they're looking to pull off this heist because at the time Hong Kong was seen as a great place of wealth. And they say in the film that if they perform this job in Hong Kong, it would pay off what they could do in a year in mainland China. So of course, with this premise, there is so much veiled political context here that you can dig into and analyse. And I thought it was so brilliant, such a great way of looking at this relationship between Hong Kong and China. I described it as brutal before because it does have this cynical edge to it. And it is definitely in the vein of neo-noir, because like those great classic film noirs, we know from the start that these characters are doomed and things are not going to go well for them. And as these guys try to prepare for this heist, many things along the way do not go to plan. And it just makes for great viewing, great drama. The film is presented from a 2K restoration with the original Hong Kong cut, which is the Cantonese language with English subtitles, and then there's the export cut, which is the English dub. And the film looks great. I had such a great viewing experience watching this film. There are a few sequences at the start of the film which just look like they're from some different materials, but for the majority of the runtime, the film looks great. There is perhaps some overuse of digital noise reduction because it looks like some of the film grain has been slightly scrubbed out of the image. Now, I imagine that was baked into the Fortune Star restoration and is not the fault of 88 Films. But please note that it's not an overbearing use of digital noise reduction. It doesn't get in the way of enjoying the film. It just was sort of noticeable to me and perhaps would be to you. The disc has some great special features, some interviews with the filmmakers, and there is a great audio commentary from regular contributor Frank Zheng, who you'll be very familiar with if you watch a lot of these Hong Kong films. Interestingly, Long Arm of the Law Part 1 is the only film directed by Johnny Mack, who would go on to produce some other films, including the sequel. And perhaps this is one of those cases of directors who only ever made one film making such a great one. You know, Charles Lawton and Marlon Brando. So the first film, Long Arm of the Law Part 1, absolutely great. It blew me away. It's stunning. It's savage. It shocked me. Honestly, this is one of the best discoveries I've made all year. Now I can gladly say that the sequel on the second Blu-ray is also a great film. I don't think it reaches the heights of the first film, and the sequel is more in line with those later action films that came out of Hong Kong. It loses a lot of the grit and harsh realism that the first film had in favour of more melodrama, so it's more melodramatic. And I don't think the characters are quite as engaging as the ones from the first film, but still I had a great time watching it. The second film was directed by Johnny Mack's brother, Michael Mack, who would go on to do some of the other sequels, which, after seeing these two, I really want to see part 3 and part 4. And I believe I saw online that if this sells well enough, 88 Films will pursue releasing a box set of part 3 and part 4. So that's even more reason to check this one out, because please check this out, because I really want to see those other films come to Blu-ray. The presentation of the film is very similar. The 2K restoration looks great. There is a bit of that smoothing, but it isn't overbearing. Definitely not one of the worst offenders I've seen. And there's great special features to match, including another audio commentary from Frank Zheng. Oh, and this film also has both cuts. It has the Hong Kong cut with the Cantonese language and the export cut. Of course, you also get the great packaging, this hardbound case from 88 Films. Inside there are these 2 Blu-ray discs in thin cases, and inside the case for part 1 you also get a booklet, which is great, and inside the case for part 2 you get the fold-out double-sided poster. All in all, this is a fantastic release, which I strongly recommend to anyone who's into Asian cinema and world cinema in general, because like I said, this is not just some throwaway martial arts movie. This is a great piece of cinema, and this brilliant release just has me lamenting the fact that I can't buy every single release from 88 Films, because they do such great work. Like I said at the start, this is available in the UK and the US, so I'll include some purchasing links in the description of this video below. If you do use those, it helps support the channel at no additional cost to you, and I'll use any of those funds to get more 88 Films to talk about. If you enjoyed this video, please do stick around on the channel. Click the video that's presented on screen right now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.